Chapter 83 RDA, Garfield, and Tigs. Widbrook Arabian Stud, Bradford-on-Avon, Wiltshire. I had been to these stables many times before. When I was younger, I went with my friends Samantha and Victoria Ty, and then again with Judy before she died. Here I was for the third time, back at the stables, but this time wanting to help too. I was given a named contact, and I recognised her name from all those years ago, so I called her, and she recognised my name too and told me to come have a ride, as it would be so lovely to see me again. Turning up on the day was quite scary, just because I hadn't ridden for a long time, and it seemed a lifetime ago, because last time I was here riding I was still struggling to walk. Now look at me, strong and confident on my legs, and a Paralympic swimmer. I looked around the yard, first seeing the horses in their stables, and then went to meet the people in charge. I was given Chesney, a little 14-hands pony to ride, and he was lovely. I had some polos in my pocket, and Chesney smelt them straight away. The riding sessions went quite well, and over the weeks I stayed there longer and longer. My half-hour session was over in minutes, so I watched other people ride too. Somebody mentioned how they brought the horses in from the fields and tacked them up before my ride, so this was my next job. Someone else went to get the horses, but then I helped to groom and tack up the horses. I loved it. I was steady on the horses' back even when we did trotting, which was good news. I took some of my medals and the Olympic torch to show all the other disabled riders to inspire them further. Everyone loved to hold them and have photos taken wearing the medals. I brought them back to the yard every week until everyone had seen them and touched them and had remembered to bring their cameras. One of the helpers at this RDA was Heather Marshall, who was very inspired by my story and who asked if I could help her to raise the profile of the RDA. And of course I said yes. Heather is a very motivated person, and when I told her I had MS and was a Paralympic swimmer, she saw this as a perfect opportunity to get more funding for the Riding for the Disabled RDA charity that she was helping. Heather also told me about her best friend Roz, who also has MS, and who would love to meet me. Heather has a horse called Tigs, and she said, if you come and meet Roz, you can ride Tigs. Perfect! I get to ride another horse. I went to her yard a few days later, and Heather introduced me to both Roz and Rodney, Roz's horse, and then to Tigs. Rodney pulled all sorts of faces at me trying to scare me, but I just kissed him on the nose, which really shocked him. Rodney was a gentle giant, standing 17 hands and 2 inches high, which is very big. Rodney's best friend was Tigs, who stood in the stable next to him. Tigs is a 15 hands 3 inches coloured cob with a heart of gold. I gave them both a carrot and an apple, so we were now friends for life, and they know me as the treat girl. I rode Tigs, who was very nice to ride. Then when I jumped off, I struggled with standing, as I do after racing in the pool or riding on a horse. Heather ran off to get a chair for me. While sat in the chair, Heather started riding. She looked so good on a horse, and they worked together absolutely perfectly, showing me all sorts of beautiful dressage moves. Tigs kept a close eye on me to make sure she didn't get too close to me, sat in the middle of the riding school, waiting for my legs to come back to me. In the end, Heather, Tigs and I started jumping and went to different dressage competitions, which I loved. After doing the grooming and the tacking up, and after sitting down for a while, I started leading the horses around when other disabled riders were on board. After speaking with me, Heather didn't let me run next to the horses when the riders were asked to trot, but that was fair enough. I felt scared that I would fall anyway. Heather saw me as a perfect person to raise a profile of Riding for the Disabled class at Widbrook, and so set off with press releases for the newspaper about me and how we needed to raise money to buy a new horse that the heavier riders could ride. Heather and I raised lots of money and lots of interest, with lots of people coming to offer their help and support. I love this because my misfortunes were given something back to as many people as I possibly could. This was such a great feeling. In the afternoon, I helped Year 7 pupils from St. Lawrence School to ride. These pupils had all different forms of special needs. One child couldn't speak and typed everything he wanted to say onto a mini computer screen, but he was truly inspired by my medals and the torch, and he just kept smiling the whole time as he sat there on the horses. Amazing. When I showed him my Paralympic medals, he sent a text to his mum to get her to come to the stables ASAP, which she did. Then they had a photo with the boy, his mum, me and Chesney all together. It was such a lovely feeling, helping so many people. On Tigs, I relearnt to ride properly with the help of Heather and Roz. Tigs was able to learn about my balance issues, and on some occasions when my MS was being bad, Tigs wouldn't go any faster than a walk in case I fell off, as she felt that I was unstable on her back. What a super horse. Heather booked me in to compete on Tigs in a few shows, and I won my first ever horse riding rosette. I was so excited. I made sure I had learned all my dressage moves, even though we have somebody reading the instructions anyway. At A, move into medium trot. I love this. I got a score of 57, which for my first ever test I was quite pleased with. I just needed to work on my balance issues. I was so proud of my rosettes that I put them on Facebook. What a lovely achievement for me. Heather invited Adrian and me to her house to meet Ken, her husband, who is a half-marathon runner, and who, after meeting me, was going to run the Bath Half Marathon and raise money for the MS Society and the RDA Riding for the Disabled charity, which is based in Bradford-on-Avon. Amazing. Ken made a comment that maybe one day he would push me, sat in my wheelchair, the whole 13 miles for the half marathon. This would definitely raise a lot of money. Ken came to Heather's yard once or twice when I was there, and on one occasion he wanted a ride. This was so funny because although Ken had no balance issues, he just kind of sat there, legs straight, arms everywhere, while Tigs tried to understand all the mixed messages Ken was giving to her. Tigs cantered around crazily, and Heather, Roz and I were giggling away. It looked so funny. I am not sure Ken has quite copied the textbooks for riding, but it worked for him. After many articles in the paper, where we showed all of our fundraising exploits and our trips to different competitions, trying to raise the profile of the RDA, Heather called me up one morning with some great news. A couple wanted to come to the yard to see the horses and to see me and chat about possible sponsorship. Wow, wonderful. The Priesses arrived the following morning, and Heather and I had made Chesney and the other horses look as good as possible. The Priesses told us about their daughter, who had gone on a family holiday skiing, but who had unfortunately lost control of her skis on a ski run and had hit a tree. Unfortunately, Jemima, their daughter, died from her injuries, but they have created a charity called Jemima's Gift in honour of her life. This charity offers help to anyone wishing to do something special. The Priestes offered to buy a bigger horse for the RDA and to pay for its feed and insurance charges. Heather went out looking for this perfect horse and found him, Garfield. Garfield was brought to the yard and renamed Jemima's Gift as a show name and Jem as a stable name. What lovely people. From something bad came something so incredibly good.